Did you have a chance to look over them?
Yes, I looked over them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, good deal, good deal.
Yeah.
Jog some memories.
Yes,
Sharply
indeed.
attack you up.
Oh, no. I don't know about that. We'll have to see how that goes, but no.
Yeah.
The sharp as they used to be, that's for sure.
So let's talk a little, so you grew up on a farm, right?
Yeah.
What was farm life like? How far away was school? How'd you get to school? Talk a little bit about that background in a sense.
Okay, well, I grew up on, as in the 50s, there were a 160-acre farm, and it was west of the school, 3/4 of a mile west, and it was just a typical farm in that era of time. You know, we had the cows and chickens and pigs and a horse and all the things that go with the farm during that time, so we were really self-sufficient. It was a very self-sufficient era where people stayed on the farm, and really the only time we ever came into town was on Saturday night to do grocery shopping. Otherwise, we were pretty much right there in the farm. So that was, it was a much different life than it is now. That's for sure.
Right.
But
So 3/4 away from your school.
are we videotaping now or not?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
It's not even there.
Okay.
This is just for our purposes,
Okay.
for recording these memories. But so 3/4
Of a mile west of
But
the
you weren't
school.
quite in Grundy County.
That's right. We were right on the Blackhawk-Grundy County line.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, it was right on the Blackhawk-County line.
And the school was called Greeley number 8.
Greeley number 8, yes, and that was just 1 mile from the border of Blackhawk and Grundy County. So it's right now it's on the corner of Viking and Grundy roads. Is where it was. And that would be on the northwest corner. Is where the school was.
And what grades did you attend? What years?
The years were 1950 through 1958, kindergarten through 6th grade. And then the school closed then after I left, so I closed down the school.
And then you moved to, you went to...
Then I went 1 year to Price Lab,
Okay.
and then they asked if we wanted to either continue at Price Lab or if we wanted to go to Dike. And so my family decided we would go to Dike, and so then that's where I went to school and graduated from Dike. So.
Okay. Alrighty. So, how did you get to school? What was your morning routine like?
The morning routine. Mine was pretty simple, really. You know, my mother was a stay-at-home mom, as most mothers were at that time, and so she would have breakfast ready. My only job was to set the table, and so then we'd have breakfast as a family, and then we would just get dressed. And my brothers had it much differently. You know, they had living on a dairy farm. They had to get up and very early in the morning and do the milking and do the chores and that sort of thing. I didn't have the milking chores at all in the morning. I had chores at night, but I didn't have any in the morning. So I had it pretty easy in comparison to them.
Right.
And, so then we just walked to school, and my brother and sister and I walked together. They were older than I am, and so we would walk together and when we were at school, and then usually have time to play on the playground, before the school started. So that was always, something to look forward to be able to get some time in playing. And so
you walked all those 7 years?
We walked, yeah, we did. Yep.
Did you meet neighbors?
Sometimes the neighbors would walk with us, but yeah, sometimes they did. We had just really one set of neighbors would be the only ones that would walk with us, but yeah, once in a while. So.
Do you remember a particularly difficult time getting to school? Any snowstorms, weather-related challenges of getting to school?
Well, I do remember one time we had a bad snowstorm, and my dad had chains on the tractor, and so he took the 3 of us, and I was thinking back as to how he even got us there, but anyway, he took us in the tractor to school, and can't remember if he brought us back home with the tractor or not, but I assume so, because it must have been a bad day.
Right.
So.
But you always had school, right?
We always had school, yes,
Never
we did.
Closed it.
No, we didn't close, that's right.
And your teacher got there
And
every
he got
time?
there, he did, he absolutely did.
So you had a male teacher?
We had a male teacher, yeah, and I had him from kindergarten through 5th grade. So Mr. Lewis Schulder was his name. And I was just talking with a girlfriend of mine today, and she had an entirely different experience where they did not get a very good education in their rural school. And so when they got to town school, in fact, some of them had to repeat the grade because they didn't get a good education. And I was thinking, well, how lucky and how fortunate I was, and my siblings, that he was a good teacher.
Right.
Because we really felt that when we got into junior high or 7th grade that we had a good background and felt like we could compete with the other kids. But yeah, I got to thinking, well, if he hadn't been a very good teacher, and for kindergarten through 6th grade, that would have been terrible.
Right.
I mean, that would have been an awful situation.
Yeah, I mean, those rural school teachers, hit or miss, right?
Exactly. And then we had Mrs. Erpeldine for our 6th grade, my 6th grade year. So I had Mr. Shelton from kindergarten through 5th, and then he retired, and then Lois Erpeldine came and taught us in 6th grade. And she was another very good teacher, excellent teacher.
Did you notice any differences or?
Well, she taught more of, I remember her teaching about nails and, more of the female things that wouldn't have been his health, health maybe of women's health and that sort of thing. She taught more of that. I remember her talking about hairdos and just as I said, fingernails and fingernail polish and that sort of thing. So
yeah.
But they were both excellent teachers. They really, as I reflect back on it, I think that they were both good teachers.
Very nice. So your female teacher taught things like health, and your male teacher, but what other lessons did you learn? I mean, what was a typical schedule like for you?
Okay.
Lesson-wise?
Well, we arrived and we started out with the Pledge of Allegiance. And if it was a nice day in the fall or in the spring, we would do that outside. And we would raise the flag on the flagpole. And then we would all stand outside and do the Pledge of Allegiance. And if it was not a nice day, then we'd be inside and do that inside. But that was the way we began. And sometimes Mr. Schulder, he was an excellent pianist. And so we were very fortunate that he enjoyed music, and so that inspired a lot of us to really enjoy music. And so we would sometimes sing like patriotic songs to begin with, America the Beautiful or Star Spangled Banner or something like that. So that would be a typical way to start. And then we had our reading lessons and our language arts lessons. Those were both in the morning. And the reading, we started out with Dick and Jane, as most of us did in that era of time.
Classic, right?
Absolutely. And then the language arts was writing and spelling and penmanship. And that was the Palmer penmanship booklet that we had. And I can remember, making the little ovals all the time. And then once we traced them a number of times, and we had to do it ourselves. And then sometimes we got to go to the blackboard, and we would do the writing on the blackboard. So, it was, penmanship was stressed a lot, I think, in the rural school. And then we had lunchtime, and then in the afternoon we'd have arithmetic and geography, which is, and that just brought back memories for sure of geography lessons. So those are the primary history, a little bit of history that went in with geography. But those are primarily the 5 subjects that we covered.
Oh, wow. Did you have a favorite?
Oh, I always liked language arts.
Okay.
I liked writing and I liked spelling. I always liked spelling bees and that sort of thing. I was usually a pretty good speller, so I liked that. And And penmanship, I enjoyed
Right.
that too. So yeah, it was the language arts
Mhm.
that I would say I really enjoyed the most.
Did you have a least favorite?
Oh, not really, I don't think. I don't really think so. You know, I enjoyed school. I really did enjoy school, and I liked every aspect of it. I liked learning, and so I don't really think that I had any that I really didn't like.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that was good.
Mhm. Did you have music with both teachers?
And we just had one teacher.
Oh,
Yes.
with your first teacher and second teacher?
Oh,
Did
I see.
you
Was
do
it,
music with both?
With Mrs. Erpeldine, I'm sure we probably did, but we did more with the recorder, with the records.
Oh, you had a record player.
Yeah, we had a record player. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because she didn't play the piano.
Mm.
So, but obviously Louis Shelter did. But we didn't get instructed in music, you know, like the notes or the scales or anything like that. That was not part of the rural school. But it was just him playing the piano, and we had a unit on dance. I remember that. And so that was always fun when we had that unit. And we do square dancing and the schottische and those sorts of things that you know, we would be taught. And those oftentimes came from UNI students, and I call it UNI now, Iowa State Teachers College. They would come from here and then go to the rural schools and do their student teaching. So we oftentimes had student teachers, and they would be the ones oftentimes who would teach us the dance.
Oh,
And
really?
a whole unit on dance. Yeah, it was neat. It really was neat. Yeah. So, but Mrs. Erpeldine, I don't think had a musical background, but we did have a record player,
Okay.
and so we would have music there and sing along to
Mm-hmm.
the old songs on top of Old Smoky.
Right. What was that like having a student teacher in your rural school?
It was great. It was great. We always looked forward to it. We really did. Yeah, they always brought a lot of fun ideas, and like I said, they were the ones who brought in the dance lessons for us, and so that was always something to look forward to. And art. We didn't really have so much of an art program, but when they came, then we had art lessons. And so that was it was good. And yeah, they were always, fun. Most of them were gals. I don't even think I can remember of one man that came, but they had a lot of enthusiasm and liked kids, and so it was just a fun experience, really. We always look forward to the student teachers.
So very much like today, where they come for like a semester.
Yes,
or...
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, they would come for a semester. Yeah, and so yeah, they would come out every day, and no matter what the weather was, they were there with teaching us. And so they had the progression of teaching one lesson to begin with, and then another, and then by the end of their time, they were teaching the whole class. And
So, well, that's just so interesting because you would do your lessons by grade, right?
Yes.
With your teacher?
Yes.
Was that just seems so different from what they were taught at ISTC, or maybe not, or?
Yeah, I don't know. That is really interesting, isn't it, to think about that?
A whole different perspective.
Yeah, it is a whole different, exactly, exactly. That's exactly right. Yes, it is much different. That's right. Yeah, but there were just 3 of us in the classroom, and in my grade, and there were probably 20 or 21 of us in the whole school, but there were just 3 of us in my class, in my grade, and we just learned to be independent learners, because I can remember sitting at the desks, and having the reading assignment, and we would do our work, and then in our school, we had a little library as you walked up the stairs, and then there was the classroom, and then off to the right there was this little library area. And so when we finished our lessons, then all 3 of us then would go and do this little library area, and then we would discuss what we read, and if we had questions, we'd ask each other. So we really didn't have the experience. I know a lot of people talk about having the older kids teaching, doing a lot of the teaching of the younger kids. We did not have that experience at Greeley.
Really?
That was kind of I find that interesting when I talk to others who have been to rural schools.
Right.
That We primarily did our own work, and we were independent learners. And then if we needed help, we would go to, one of the others in our grade and ask if they could help us. But like I said, then we would gather in the library, and then we would talk of our lessons. And if none of us understood it, then we would have to go and ask the teacher or ask one of the older kids. But
you had a librarian, a dance teacher. Wow. So fortunate over at Greeley number 8.
Remember, he did everything.
It sounds like you had one heck of a teacher. I mean,
yeah. Well, really, when I look back at it, I think I was really, really fortunate, because can you imagine if it had been 6 years of having someone who wasn't good?
Right.
I mean, that would have been really a terrible situation.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So, just to change gears here a little bit, do you remember what your school looked like?
Oh yeah.
Take us on a little view of the inside of your school.
Visual tour here. Okay. Well, to begin with, it was white, and it was fairly new. We had a fairly new school, so it was pretty modern. And before you even walked in, we had a nice area that was all cemented off. And so we could play our jacks and that sort of things on that on nice days. Okay. And then we walked into the school, and it was like a split foyer, like homes are split foyer homes now, where you could go either down or up.
Oh, okay.
And so we had, when you walked in, there was this foyer area, and then you would walk down to the basement, or you would walk up to the classroom. And the basement was where we went to first when we got to school, because that's where we hung our coats and boots and lunch pails and that sort of thing. We did that downstairs underneath the stairway. And then we'd walk up, and the basement was just a huge room, but it had a long table and benches, and so that's where we would eat our lunch, was downstairs in the basement, almost always.
Oh, okay.
So every once in a while we would eat upstairs on our desks, but primarily we ate downstairs in the basement. And so there was a furnace down there, so it was, we didn't have to do any of the coal or anything like that. It was a very modern school. Then we walked up the stairs, and that was one big classroom. And like I said, and then off to the right there was this little library area where Mr. Schilder had his piano. And then we had books in there, some library books, and we had some musical instruments. I remember we had a tambourine. Then we had, to the left there was the boys' bathroom and the girls' bathroom. We had running water, and we had a faucet for drinking water. And on the wall to the north, we had the blackboard. That's where we had the blackboard, and that's where we had the map. And then there were just rows of desks, and ours were a bit different than these, but that was there was a lot of light. We had nice windows, and so there was a lot of light that came in. And,
Did you have electricity?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yep. So like I said, it was a very modern school.
Sounds very modern, progressive.
For a rural school, it was a very modern
What
rural
about
school.
the outside? Did you have a bell, a well? Did you? No bell?
No bell, no. When Mr. Schilder had this little bell that he rang to tell us to come in from recess, but no, we didn't have a bell, no.
But you had a flagpole.
Yeah, we had a flagpole.
Did you have a well?
No.
No well?
No.
But you
we had running water, so no, no.
Did you have a playground?
Yes, we had a nice playground. Yes, we had a slide, and then we had 2 swings. Then we had some bars that you could do your chin-ups and pull-ups and that sort of thing, or we twirled around on the bars. And then the teeter-totter and a merry-go-round. So that was the equipment that we had. Then we had, to the north of the school, we had a baseball diamond that we would play a lot of baseball. And then north of that, we had a grove of trees. And in the grove of trees, we did a lot of playing of hide go seek and build forts out there and that sort of thing. So yeah, that was kind of the layout of our whole playground area.
Oh, wow.
So,
sounds expansive.
Well, you know, for a little kid, it seemed pretty expansive. In reality, it probably wasn't all that big, you know. But it did seem like it was a nice area, nice size area. It really was.
So you had recess? Did you have
We
recess?
had recess morning, afternoon, and then during the noon hour too.
So did you interact with the other grades outside? Sounds like you didn't so much in here, but you did outside.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Did you play games?
We played lots of games. Yeah, we played Annie Over. You maybe know about that. Simon Says. Red Rover. That was another popular game we did. Pom Pom Pull Away, that was another one. Lots of jumping jacks and just jacks. We played jacks and hide go seek with the grove out there. I remember playing a lot of hide go seek in the grove, and that was always fun. And building forts, and just kind of what the games but yeah, we did interact a lot with the others, yeah. And baseball, like I said, we always had a baseball game going in the spring. And in the wintertime, there was a big, the school as they were on a corner, and there was obviously ditches on both sides, and so when the snow came, then it would fill up about halfway. And so then we would have a lot of fun just building tunnels through the snow there, and forts and igloos. I remember making igloos and doing snow angels and playing fox and goose and that sort of thing in the wintertime. So, but yeah, we did. We interacted a lot with everybody.
Right.
Yeah, we really did.
Oh, what it's like to be a kid.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was a good life. It really was. It was a much simpler life.
How do you remember your classmates? And all the other kids in the school?
You know, I just have fond memories of them. I really do. You know, it was kind of an era where there was a lot of respect for the teacher. And so we knew, I think all of us knew, being farm kids and growing up on a farm, that if we got in trouble at school, we would get in equal trouble at home. Right. You know, that was kind of the rule. And so really, I mean, there wasn't any discipline problem that I can even remember in school. And I just find that kind of amazing. I don't know if I lived in a little shelter or if that's really the way it was, but I really, you know, I just don't ever remember really having discipline problems or the teacher having to spank anybody or anything like that at all. But we all got along, it seemed like, really well, and played well together. And you know, I think because of our backgrounds, we all, you know, were farm kids and had our chores to do, and you know, we knew that the value of work and that sort of thing. And so we were in school to learn, and when we went home, we were expected to work at home. You know, so that was just kind of the way it was. So no, I just have a lot of fond memories. I really do, of my classmates. And, you know, I don't know. There's 3 of us, as I said, in my grade level, and Gay Olson was the other girl, and Richard Christensen was the boy. And so we would have sleepovers. Gay and I would have sleepovers, and you know, get together. And Nancy Schmidt was a year older, and she lived a little closer. Their farm was about 1.5 miles from our place, and so we would get together and you know, once in a while be able to go back and forth and do what kids do, you know. Just play in the barns. I remember Nancy and I played a lot in the barns and with the animals and with the cats. We always had a lot of cats on the farm.
Oh, right.
And so yeah, you know, it was just, I think, a really congenial group. I was really, really, really fortunate that we didn't really have any real troublemakers who were, you know, always getting into trouble or that sort of thing. I don't have any memories of anything like that. So.
Well, it's a small community. Word gets around, right?
There you go. That is right. Absolutely. That's exactly right. And like I said, we knew if we were in trouble at school, we were equally in trouble at home. You know, and my parents would definitely stick up for the teacher. You know, and I think all the others felt that way too. That, you know, the teacher was the authority figure, and he was to be respected, and that was just the way it was.
Did he have any particular discipline techniques or?
No, I don't think he really did. I don't remember that he did. I really don't remember that he had any real discipline techniques. But again, I think that the discipline came from our parents, I think, and just knowing that we had to, when we were at school, we were at school to learn and to respect and behave ourselves and be good citizens, and that was our expectation,
right.
And that came from home. So
yeah.
I don't really remember that he had any discipline rules or things that we had to follow. I really don't remember that.
Because you guys were so well behaved.
Well, we must have been. I don't know.
Your parents
I maybe lived in the fairy tale land too, apparently.
So how do you think your classmates remember you?
Oh, I think they remember me as being a pretty good student, who enjoyed learning, cooperative. I think I like to run, and so I think they probably remember me as being pretty athletic. Easy to get along with, I think. And a little bit on the shy side.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You just seem so energetic and enthusiastic. Oh gosh. Let's see here. So you had lunchtime.
Yes.
What was a typical lunch like?
Okay. Well, that was my mother, as I said, was a stay-at-home mom, which was pretty typical in the 50s. And and she was also of a Danish background. Her parents were both Danish, so she was Danish. So she would prepare wonderful meals for us, and wonderful. But we brought them, we brought our lunch to school with us. But she would pack always a nice sandwich with homemade bread, and could be like a pork sandwich or a beef sandwich or something that we had had from the farm. Had a vegetable, usually carrots or something like that, and celery, carrots and celery. Had an apple or some sort of fruit. And then she always was great at making desserts. So we always had these great desserts, cookies and cakes and pies. And so, it was a real balanced meal, it was. Plus the sweet on the end, so.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was just, she was always the one who made them and packed them for us. And,
Gotcha. And then you went downstairs and you ate most of the time.
Yep, we ate. Yep.
Let's see here. Oh gosh. So in addition to having these resources here, like maps and chalkboards, I assume you had like workbooks and supplies. Yeah. Did you have to provide those, or was those provided for you?
No, those were provided for us. Okay. Yes, yeah, and we kept them in our desk. So that was ours, and they were assigned to us, and we had a number that Mr. Schilder kept in the book that was our book, and so we were responsible for them, and we had to take care of them. And if we ruined them, obviously we had to pay for them. But otherwise, no, it was provided for us. So
library books as well.
I think so. I'm quite sure they were. Yeah, because I don't remember any of the families. They may have donated some, but I think they were either donated by the families or it was provided by the school. I don't, the school district. So.
Did they rotate library books, or did you have the same library books over the years, or?
Oh wow, that's a really good question. I really don't know about that. If they rotated them. I would imagine they probably did, but I'm not too sure about that. But I think a lot of people of the farm families, after they had finished reading their books, then they would donate them to the school. So
that's very nice.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably the way it worked. Yeah, we do. So, and it wasn't a huge library. I mean, it wasn't like the libraries that we have at school today. Right. Don't get me wrong. It was probably the size of a closet, but it was a library. Yeah. So
you had a library. Did you have one of those water jugs? Did you have pictures of like Washington and Lincoln.
Yes, we did have pictures of Washington and Lincoln. Yes, we did. Yeah, we certainly did. Yes, yeah, we did. We had running water, so we didn't have a jug at all. We had running water that we could get our water just right there at school. So, like I said, we had the piano for sure. And, our desks were more of the traditional desks that we have today, that the older.
Right. Was your recitation bench in the front, in the back?
Well, no. See, we didn't even have, I don't think we didn't have that bench like you have there.
Oh,
as a
really?
recitation,
Okay.
yeah. No, we didn't. We, I guess when it was our turn to visit with the teacher, we would come up and just be at his desk area, and that would be where we stood and had our lessons. And like I said, or we would go into the library and have the three of us would get together, and then he would come in and probably instruct us and that sort of thing. But no, we didn't have a regular recitation bench like you have here.
Did you have a stage?
No, we didn't have a stage, but at Christmas time we had these great Christmas programs that we put on for our parents, and that was the highlight of the whole year.
Oh yeah.
Was getting ready for the Christmas program. We had it was somewhat like this, but then we strung a curtain that went from the whole one side of the on the west side of the schoolroom, and that was just the greatest situation that you could possibly think of in those days. Where we could put on our plays. We had we did a lot of reciting poetry and reading of paragraphs maybe or things, and then we would do our sometimes our dancing. We would demonstrate the dances and that we learned. We would be able to dress up, and it was really a fun time. We pushed all the desks back and then got chairs from, I don't know where they even came from, but anyway, I remember getting all the chairs all set up so that we could have our parents come and entertain our parents. So, and we all had a lot of music too. Obviously, as I said, Mr. Sheldon was, he played the piano, so we had a lot of music with our Christmas programs.
Did you get to be involved in that planning, or was that all your teacher's job?
Oh, I think that was more of our teacher's job. Okay. Yeah, I think he did the planning. Yeah, I do. And we just, I think we decided what we wanted to do and participate in, and what we wanted to memorize, and but I'm sure he picked out the songs and just knew how the whole evening was going to go. So
I'm sure your schoolroom was just packed with families, right?
It was, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
The one time a year where parents come,
absolutely.
right?
Yes, and it was, that's why it was such a big deal. Yeah, and there was a lot of preparation beforehand. I remember, like I said, memorizing things, and it was an exciting time. That Christmas program was the highlight of the whole school year. Yeah, that was good.
Were your student teachers ever involved? Or?
Yes, okay. I think they were. Yes, yep, I do. I remember them being involved. Yeah, and helping us with our lessons or whatever we were going to be doing, or helping us with memory work and
right.
Probably choosing if they're going to have reading something that they would choose that probably, and that sort of thing. But,
so you went from typical like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 9 to 3. Like what was?
I think it was time frame was more like 9 to 3:45 type of thing. Okay. Maybe 4 o'clock, and then a lunch hour. And like I said, 2 recesses. So. It took us about 20 minutes to walk to school, and then we had time to play it. 9 o'clock, the bell rang, and off we were. And that was the beginning of the day.
Right.
So,
typical attire? You wore dresses?
We wore dresses, skirts, blouses, but we always had jeans underneath.
Oh, really?
Yep, we did.
Guys-
Because when we played on the playground, we would have to have, we were twirling on the bars and everything else, so we had.
Right.
Plus, in the wintertime, we had these flannel jeans.
Okay.
I don't know if they even have those today, but we had flannel jeans underneath our skirts and dresses, and so yeah, those were the days when you had to have skirts and dresses.
Guys wore jeans as well? Okay.
Yeah, they wore jeans, just normal t-shirts, just regular shirts.
You must have had some farming boys in your
Oh yeah.
in your school.
Oh sure, yeah.
Did they ever have to leave for harvest and come back, or they attend school regularly, or?
I don't remember that they really did leave. I don't remember. I know they did in some schools. I know that was part of some rural schools, but in the 50s, I don't remember that being as part of what the boys had to do. They had to work when they got home, but as far as leaving like in May to do the farm work and that sort of thing, I don't remember that they did.
So school ended at 3:45, and you went home the same way you got there.
Yeah, we had 2 culverts on our way home, and maybe did I mention that before, that we didn't have it wasn't a lot of running water through them, but they were fairly large culverts that we could walk through. And so we would spend some time going, not coming to school, but going home. We'd have more time just to piddle around, and so we would walk through these culverts and then go up over the road and then come back and walk through the culvert again and come back over the road, and just that was kind of a fun thing that we did. I did have an incident there though that I was my older brother and sister were with me, and we were walking home and we were playing around the culvert. And like I said, we would go through the culvert, then we go around up on top of the road and then through the culvert. Well, this one day I wasn't looking when I was walking across, when I was going across, I was running across the road, and a car was coming, and so I got hit by the car.
Oh, no.
Going home from school.
Oh my!
And so I remember being in the Sartorial Hospital for 3 days. And at that time, and I just have real vivid memories of this. It was in a ward. At that time they had wards at the hospital. And it was on the west side of the hospital, and there were lots and lots of windows. It was like a solarium.
Yeah.
And so I remember just having all these beds just lined up one after the other. It was kind of an interesting experience. I think that was on 2nd grade that happened.
You got hit by a car in 2nd grade?
Yeah, I did. That's why I broke my nose. Yeah.
Oh gosh!
So that was one day that wasn't the best day going home.
I hope just your nose got hit.
Yeah,
I
think I had a concussion. I know I had a concussion.
Oh,
yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, just one of those crazy things where,
kids.
Yeah, kids, that's it, exactly. And I'd done that 1,000 times, just run across the road to the other side of the culvert, and so, yeah, I wasn't even thinking I should be looking for cars, so, anyway, that was.
Did you miss school at all, or?
Well, I must have missed when I was in the hospital. I'm sure I must have missed in the hospital. And I think I remember my mom bringing up lessons from the teacher that we did then in the evening. But
so you had some homework?
well, not
regularly.
Not regularly.
Okay.
No.
It was just your leave of absence.
Just my leave of absence. That's right. Unexpected leave of absence, Laura.
Then you were back at it, right?
Back at it. That's right. But no, as far as homework, no, I don't remember that we had to take books home or anything like that.
Right. So do you? Oh gosh, 2nd grade, getting hit by a car. That's a first. I will say that. That's a first here. Oh my gosh. So your school, it was used for Christmas programs. Was it used for anything else? Like
Elections.
Elections?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was used for elections, and that was about all. I don't think it was used for very many other things other than just regular school things and elections.
Did school close for elections, or like did you have an afternoon off for
Oh boy, I was thinking it was more in the evenings after school that the elections were. I don't think we ever stopped school for an election. Not that I remember. But I was thinking it was more after school.
Okay.
So
that's one community-related purpose that the school is used for. Any other purposes that you can think of?
I don't really know if they had any other meetings or anything other than that. I really don't know. I just couldn't tell you. I don't think they had any other meetings, but I guess I wasn't aware of any others. I'll put it that way.
So then summer break came around. What did you typically do? What did kids typically do during summer break?
Well, you worked on the farm.
On the farm?
That's what you basically did. That was, as I said, it was a dairy farm, and so we had oats that had to be cut and then baled, and alfalfa that had to be baled. And so we spent a lot of our summer baling hay. One of my jobs was to run the side rig for when the oats or when the straw was being cut down, and when the oats was being cut down for straw. And so that involved, we had a Farmall H tractor, and I would hook that up to the side rig, and then the purpose of the side rig was to get the straw or hay, in case of the alfalfa, in straight rows, so that the baler then could just come real easily and bale it. So anyway, that was one of my jobs when we were baling. And then I would drive the hay fork. That was another thing that I did when we were baling, was had the hay fork, and that was on a pulley system, so I'd have to back the tractor up when they told me that the forks were in the bales of hay, and then that would lift the hay up into the hay mound. It would be on a pulley system, like I said, and then it would be on a rail, and it would hit the rail, and then my dad would be inside, and he would be telling the person on the hay rack when to stop. So then the person on the hay rack would give me a signal that I would stop then. So it was kind of an interesting communication system there. But so yeah, we did a lot of this basic farm work. But in our free time, I loved to go to the creek. We had a creek about a half a mile to the west of us, and so that was just a lot of time spent at the creek, just enjoying what kids do with water, And we had a big boulder there, so I remember just sitting in the boulder a lot, and, or just looking for minnows and picking up little minnows and that sort of thing. And so that was always fun. And once in a while, I would go over to, we had a neighbor about a half a mile away. Her name was Ray Andreessen, and their children were grown. And so I would sometimes have Mom call her and ask if I could come over, and then she would show me how to knit. And so that was when I first learned to knit, and I was able to knit my first scarf. And I remember that. And then she would knit me little slippers, and that was really, I really treasured those for a long time. And sometimes we'd have, the neighbor kids come over and play games in the evening and that sort of thing. Any over, we had a milk house, and then we'd play any over a lot with them, or play ball, or just we always had our chores to do in the evenings. And one of my really fun things that I really did enjoy, we always, as I said, my dad had dairy cattle, and so when they had calves, then sometimes maybe the mother would get mastitis, and she couldn't feed the calf, and so that would be one of my jobs, is to feed the calf with the milk bottle. And then after they outgrew the milk bottle, then I had to show them how to drink from a pail. And that was always interesting because I always thought, well, they would just naturally know how to, drink from a pail.
Right.
But they didn't. These little calves had to be taught how to drink from a pail. You had to, I had to get my fingers in the milk and then put my fingers in their mouth. And I can remember now how sandpaper their little tongue was.
Yeah.
And then I would take and then get their head in the milk bucket, and then they finally realized that was where the milk was coming from, was from the milk bucket, and so then they got the message. But you had to hold on to the milk bucket really hard because then they would butt their heads. They get so excited, and so we didn't want to have the milk going all over the place, and so you had to be careful about holding the milk bucket. So that was just a really fun memory.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, let's see here. Your school closed in 1958, right?
That's right.
Do you remember what happened to your school?
Yes. Then it was taken to Dike by a carpenter. A carpenter bought the school and converted it then to a home. And the home is still standing there today. And in fact, I was thinking I should have brought a picture. I should have gone to Dike and taken a picture of it. And so.
Is it outside of Dike?
No, it's right in town. It's right in
town.
town. Yeah. And then he made it into a home, and it's still standing today. It's white, just like our school classroom or school was white. So yeah.
That's really neat. It's been repurposed.
It is, yeah, exactly. It has been repurposed. Yes, exactly. And since 1958, I mean, that has been quite a long time ago. But like I said, it was a fairly modern school when I went to school. I mean, as far as rural schools, that was not all of them. Very few of them, I think, had running water, had restrooms and that sort of thing. I mean, most of them had outhouses, and you had, like you said, you had a well and that sort of thing. But we didn't have that experience at all.
So it was just made to live forever,
right?
I
guess that's right, Laura. I guess it was.
It was just intended to just keep
chugging.
That
was its destiny, wasn't it? Absolutely.
Do you remember what it was like going from rural school to town school? I mean, what were your feelings, your thoughts, your opinions?
It was kind of a scary time, because here I was used to just 3 in my classroom. And 3 in my class, and then to go to a Price lab where there were 25, 30 of us all together. My 7th grade year was not the best year of my life. It really was not. That was it was a tough year for me in a lot of respects, because coming off, I think, from the rural school, most of the kids had formed their friendships in elementary. And so that was something you had to break into type of thing. Going from different class to different class, have different teachers. Those were all new experiences. They had a swimming pool. That was the first time that I had swimming lessons. In school, I did have some swimming lessons that Mom and Dad brought me to here in Cedar Falls, but not a class. And there we had music classes, we had instruments, which was, I remember that was when I played the flute, and that was just an entirely different experience. And being a lab school, there was just a lot of different learning styles, learning teachers with just different ideas in learning, I think, that they wanted to try out. I remember one in math, I'll never forget this. They had this idea that we should multiply Roman numerals.
Oh, my.
Yeah, no kidding. I can still remember that. I never did get it. That was one of those stressful periods.
Can't win them all.
I don't know how in the world they were trying to teach us, but I could not get how to multiply the Roman numerals. So that was. But I think they were trying new and different things. And they really, as a lab school, should do. They really should do that. But for me, coming out of a country school, it was an adjustment.
Right.
It was an adjustment for sure.
Do you remember how it was like? How was it like interacting with the town kids? Did the rural school and town kids mesh? at first, or?
Well, you know, I think probably as best we could. But, you know, I mean, our backgrounds were entirely different.
Right.
They are just entirely different backgrounds that we had. And so I think probably as best we could, but it was, yeah, I don't know that it was real smooth. I really don't.
What about your lessons? How did those change? I'm sure the teaching styles were different. That was an adjustment.
Yes, and going from room to room, you know, was an adjustment. Having a lot of our kids, you know, that was an adjustment. We had lockers, you know, and we had to take our books with us. You know, all those things that we didn't have to do in country school. You know, we just had our desks, and so we had to be only responsible for things in our desks. But here at in 7th grade, we had to carry our books with us, and you know, have the right books and right papers and everything. You know, with us, we had more homework. You know, that's when homework began, which was, you know, all of that was just an entirely different ball game than what I had been used to. So,
were you sad to leave rural school, or do you look back and go, maybe it was, you know, maybe it was meant to be, or
yeah,
maybe,
I think that was more my attitude. Is, you know, it was time. You know, 6th grade, and then and then the consolidation happened in '58, and that's when I left the country school, and so it was just part of life, and you know, you just moved on, and so I don't think that there were any. I don't think there was any sadness really. It was just the way it was. You know, so.
Do you remember how they announced that the school was closing? Did your superintendent come at all, or?
I don't remember that. No, I was trying to think of how we even, if I even knew that the school was even closing when we our last day. I mean, I must have, but that doesn't register with me. How we even knew that was going to be happening. I do remember the last day of school, because we got together with bachelor school that was on 1st Street, and they came over and we had a picnic and played ball games and just played games with the two schools combined, and so that was, you know, quite a send-off. Right. But I guess I didn't put 2 and 2 together that it was because of the consolidation.
That was their little trick, right?
That's right. Oh dear.
Gosh.
So, you know, the naivety of kids, I guess that was.
Right. Do you have a best memory, or do you remember the best day you had at country school?
Oh, well, I would say it was probably at the Christmas programs. You know, I would definitely say that those were the best days. Yeah. Because there was just so much excitement, and you know, we got to be forward from our parents, and it was there's a lot of preparation, but it was all good. You know, it was just all good. It really was. And so got to dress up and wear fancy clothes, and that was their Sunday school clothes. You know, because we never wore our Sunday school clothes other than outside of church. So, so to wear them at school was, you know, that was a pretty memorable day. So. Yeah, I would say the Christmas program was definitely the highlight.
Do you have a worst memory of country school?
Well, I don't. I think the worst memory would be just the walking home from school and getting hit by the car.
That's fair.
You know, I would think that would be the worst. But as far as in school, I don't think I really have a worst experience. You know, I maybe blocked it out. Who knows? But
yeah, you never know.
But no, I really don't remember any. You know.
Do you remember of any like local or national events that happened?
Oh yes, in the 50s. That was Dwight D. Eisenhower was president in '52. I definitely remember him entering the presidency. That was when we had Sputnik that went up in the late 50s. television just came in the 50s. So before we would actually watch the radio.
Right.
And the polio epidemic, that was a huge thing, a very scary thing in our community. And I had a classmate at Sunday school who was stricken with polio. And in fact, there were 3 from our church, who were 4 from Fredsville, who were stricken with polio. And so that was just a really scary time. I mean, people were afraid to go to swimming in swimming pools. That was just a really scary time to think that 2 of the gals that were stricken with polio ended up in the iron lung, and so it was serious, very serious. So
did that impact real school at all? I mean,
well, I just think it impacted our families.
Okay.
I really think that was just a scary time. It was also during the Cold War. This was a period after World War II, and the bomb shelters, people were making bomb shelters and storing food and that sort of thing in bomb shelters. And I kept asking my parents, why aren't we building a bomb shelter? Although none of the other neighbors were, but I was thinking that they were. And so, that was just kind of a scary time with the polio and the Cold War, but that was Elvis too, and that was Elvis. It was first on the Ed Sullivan Show. So we remember that definitely. We got our first television, in the 50s, so that was a really big deal. So there were some real major events that were happening in the world.
Was there like a heightened sense of like public health in school? Was there a heightened sense of patriotism in school, or?
I would say both. Yes, I would say both. But yes, public health definitely. Yes. Yep, I remember them coming out even to the rural school, and we would have these little pink sugar cubes that I don't know what they had in them, but anyway, that was the polio vaccine. And
they would vaccinate you in the schools.
But it was in a little sugar cube. It was in a little pink sugar cube. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we were vaccinated in school. It was definitely much more of a heightened time for public health. Yeah, very much so.
Oh, that's so interesting. Never heard that one before. Wow.
The little sugar cubes?
Yeah.
They were pink. I remember that, definitely. They were little pink sugar cubes.
So they just came in and said, time to get vaccinated.
Yeah, that's right. That's a line up. Yeah, we had to line up, and then they would hand out these little sugar cubes, and
It's so different than today. So different.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, so different. Absolutely so different.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, so different.
So you went to town school, you graduated, and then what did you move on to?
Well, after graduating from high school, I went to Personal Training Institute in Omaha, Nebraska for 3 months, and there I took the civil service exam, and then I was placed in a position in Washington, D.C., and I worked out in the Naval Annex for 2 years, and then I worked in the Pentagon then for 2 years. And while I worked in the Pentagon, they had an extension at the University of Maryland that I could just go to college in the evenings at the University of Maryland and in the base of the Pentagon. So I was able to get some credits until I had thought that I had enough money saved to go to college. And so then I went off to Western State College in Gunnison, Colorado, and went to school out there for 2 years, and then I had a skiing accident, and what brought me back to Cedar Falls. My dad he had never flown on a plane before in his life, and he had to come out and get me.
Really?
Well, I had broken both ankles and a leg, if you can imagine, skiing. So I was in 2 casts, and so I had to have him come out and get me, and Gunnison is a fairly small town, and so they had an airport, but the planes that they had in the airport, Frontier at that time, wouldn't take me because they didn't have any facility to take this person who was incapacitated, basically. And so we had to, my dad had to hire a private plane to take me to Denver.
Oh, wow.
And here he had never flown a day in his life.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, gracious me. So and then once we got to Denver, then they would put me on a regular flight. So anyway, I went 2 years to Gunnison, and then came back here and finished at UNI and got my bachelor's, and then went on and got my master's, and 45 hours beyond my master's. So,
wow.
And then I was able to teach then, my first teaching job at Independence. I had done my student teaching at Cromwell Children's Unit in MHI, and that was, I had graduated in December, and an opening came up in January in Independence Public Schools, 4th grade. So I was really, really fortunate I didn't have to wait until the following fall. And so anyway, I was able to get a teaching job right away, and taught there in Independence for 6 years at East Elementary, and then came to Cedar Falls and taught at Southdale Elementary here in Cedar Falls. So
you've lived a life or two, haven't you? Goodness.
It's been a good life, that's for sure. I was very fortunate to have wonderful parents, who were supportive and cared about me, and good education. Right. Really, very, very fortunate. So
that's solid rural school education, right?
There you go.
That was the takeoff point. All right, Doris, what are some important takeaways you want people to remember about your rural school experience?
Well, basically the importance of education. I think that's just the takeaway that I'd like to have people know. Neither one of my parents were able to complete high school because they had to work on the farms. They had to help support their parents. And I remember my mom talking about how she would go to bed and just cry because she couldn't complete her high school. And I think that made a huge impact on me. Yeah. And my whole family, because there are 6 siblings, and we all have completed degrees beyond our high school. And I think that that it's so easy to take for granted that we have this free education that we are privileged to have. But it hasn't always been that way. The people who really wanted an education couldn't get an education. Not because they were not smart enough or anything like that. It was just because they had to work out, to support their parents and to support the farm. And I think that would be the biggest takeaway that I would really like to have people know. It's just the importance of public education, and what a privilege it is to be able to get an education and to get as much of an education as you really want to get.
Well, that kind of comes back to the importance of consolidation, right? I mean, thanks to consolidation, school has been made a lot more accessible to people, introduced busing routes, and if you can make education more accessible and practical, the idea is to give it more opportunity to people, right?
That's right.
So, yeah.
That's true.
Let's see here. What lessons did you learn from this time in your life? What lessons have you carried on through life?
Well, I think the importance of being independent and being an independent thinker, being able to problem solve. I think those were things that you really learned from the rural school. Cooperation, getting along with others, being a good citizen, there's a whole world out there. And just the excitement of being able to learn about that whole new world. you know, I think that's one of the great takeaways that I would have is just realizing just what a gift education is, and just, you know, treasuring that.
Do you ever run into some of your old classmates?
I don't. Well, one of us passed away. In fact, quite a few of them in the school have passed away. So once in a while, I guess I run into. Not very often. No, not very often.
Gotcha. In your opinion, what are some of the biggest changes in education over the years?
Oh, wow. Well, you know, just think of how many school opportunities there are right now. You know, you have charter schools, you have homeschooling, you have alternative schools, you have schools which are just based on technology, you have Sullivan Learning Centers, you know, procreative schools. I mean, all of those different school opportunities that we have right now that, you know, certainly not available when I was going to school.
Sure.
Just the whole curriculum, I think, is broadened. You know, I mean, it's just think of all the students that you know who've had experience going abroad, you know, and studying abroad, and I think just the world has just shrunk so much. You know, I mean, we were growing up on the farm. That was basically our community. It was the church, the school, and our farm. You know, and that was. We didn't know much more than what was around our community.
Right.
And now, you know, it's just, people are just so much more aware because of technology, because of television, that, you know, you're just constantly aware of what the whole world is doing.
Right.
And I think that's a huge, huge difference.
I'm sure you can make comparisons and contrasts between rural school and education today, huh? I mean, there's some stark differences.
Oh, huge, exactly, huge. I mean, just think of technology alone, and what all that has, you know, entailed. You know, the encyclopedia. That was what we grew up with. You know, for knowledge, as far as if we were thinking of a question, we would always just go to the encyclopedia. But now you can go to Google and have the answer in, you know, a minute. You know, it's just instant, and it's just it's an entirely different sort of learning.
Do you think there are certain aspects of country school that would be beneficial to education today?
Well, you know, I think, as I said, we had to really learn to be independent learners, and I think that that was a key factor. That was part of the rural system. Was you know, being able to think on your own and be able to kind of think through things, and if you needed help, then you can obviously ask for help. But so that would be certainly one of the things I think that would be a benefit to school.
I agree, absolutely.
And just learning cooperation and getting along well with others. You know, I think those are all lifetime skills that one has to learn.
Well, the discipline has changed
Tremendously. Yes, absolutely, tremendously. Yes, and behavior. Yeah, just the you know, look at all the health issues that children have now, and lots of behavior problems now that are coming into kindergarten. You know, I mean, that's just that just wasn't part of what we grew up with.
Well, Doris, is there anything else you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to? Or?
Well, you know what, I did think of one thing that was really unique, I think, about Greeley, and I don't know if this happened in other schools, but and I don't know if it was the Gideons or who, but anyway, sometime in the springtime, we would have to memorize Bible verses.
Oh, really?
And this was in the public school. Yeah, and I remember, and then if we memorized so many Bible verses, then we got a prize or we got something for it. But yeah, I remember that we spent time at recess time.
At recess?
At recess. Was it recess? It was usually at recess, and we had these Bible verses that we were supposed to study and to memorize. We had to memorize them.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I thought that was really a kind of a unique thing that I don't know, I guess I hadn't asked others in country school if they had that same experience, but I thought that that was a very unique part of Greeley number 8 anyway.
Interesting.
And just having the student teachers too, coming from
Yeah.
ISTC was really a unique experience too for country school.
Oh, definitely. Haven't heard that before.
Oh, okay.
So that's interesting.
Okay, all right.
But
okay.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of the nearby rural schools in the area really, they took in these student teachers.
Yeah, they must have.
Mhm.
Yeah, they must have. But yeah, I would say those are two things that were just unique.
Did country school inspire you to teach in your later life, or?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I kind of always wanted to work with children. That was one of the things that I always wanted to do, and so I thought at some time I might would go into child psychology, and that was one area that I was interested in. But no, I'm glad I chose the field that I did, and I did get my bachelor's actually in special ed for emotionally disturbed children.
Okay.
And that's how I ended up at Carmel Children's Independence for my student teaching.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm really, really glad that I was able then to get into a country school, or get into a school right away, and get into a regular classroom. You know, I taught 4th grade all of the 34 years that I taught, so so it didn't change grades very often. I was always in 4th grade, so it was a great age group to teach, and just lots of great memories of teaching. And I think that was one of the things too that now I think lots of students and lots of teachers are feeling so stressed with all of the testing that has to be done in schools nowadays. I think they just feel so much pressure. And I was just thinking back when I was teaching, the ability to have time to do some really fun and creative things that teachers don't have the time right now to be able to do those things. And that's, I think, really really sad. One of the things that I was reflecting on was I would also, after lunch and the recess break, then I'd always read a book to the kids. And then if it was a really good book, then the kids would decide that they wanted to make it into a play.
Oh.
And here are these 9 and 10-year-olds, and they would take this book, and they would volunteer. And there would be usually 4 or 5 of them who would volunteer to take this book and take the dialogue out of the book and create a play. And write the play, and do all of the ideas of the props and the setting and everything, and they would get the whole class involved. And then we would do these, we would present them to the other 4th grade class, or sometimes to our kindergarten friends or something, but we would always present it to somebody.
Right.
But it was just a really creative thing that they were able to do, and like I said, I still marvel these 9 and 10-year-olds were able to take this book, and and we did that so often. And if they really enjoyed the book, then they would create a play from it. And when we were given the time to do that, whereas now I don't think teachers have the time to be able to would have the time to be able to do that.
A lot more structure now.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Not very much autonomy like your rural teachers had,
Absolutely, that's absolutely right. Yeah. Another thing that I did when I was teaching was we had to encourage outside reading and to just encourage kids to read. We had a book auction, and which was we did that about 3 or 4 times a year, where the kids would read books on their own outside of school. And then I had a volunteer, Raymond Smith, who would come in every morning, and then he would take the books that these kids had read, and they would go out in the hallway, and they would discuss the book with them, and then they would write down the number of pages that were in the book, and then we would add up those pages right before the auction, and then we convert that to make-believe money. So if they had read 1,500 pages, that would be make-believe money of $15. What they could spend at the auction. And so then the parents would be very cooperative and bring in all of these things from home that they didn't feel that they needed anymore, or they would bake things and cookies and cupcakes and that sort of thing. And then on the auction, then the students would be able to buy the things with their money that they had earned from the pages that they had read. You know, it was just kind of a fun way to have them really enjoy learning. And I still have kids that, you know, when I see them, say how much that they enjoy learning now, just because of that.
Yeah.
And you know, again, it was just being able to have the time to, you know, do that.
Right.
And
are there certain things about rural school that you continued or took with you when you started teaching, or
oh wow.
some tactics, some learning techniques?
You know, I think maybe one of the things is just the difference in learning styles of students. Because in rural school, I think we were, I could kind of see that Mr. Schilder tried to, if a student was an auditory learner, that maybe he would accommodate more to that area for them, or if they were a visual learner or kinesthetic or whatever. You know, and I definitely think that was one thing I certainly brought with me in my teaching from the rural school. Was just being aware of different learning styles.
Gotcha. Well, anything else, Doris?
I think that's about it, Laura.
Oh gosh.
I think that's it.
Well, gosh, thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
This has been so enjoyable.
Well, thank you. It's been enjoyable for me too. So thank you so much for having me.
It's a nice little walk down memory lane, huh?
Yes, it has been. It really has. You know, you haven't thought about these things for 60 years. So
Right.
or 50 years or 60 years, I guess. So yeah, it has been a nice walk down memory lane. It really has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm so glad you sent me the contacts for your family and friends.
Good. Well, I will continue to get some if you have the time to and want to do them.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, I have a few more contacts, and I will definitely send them the information then and let them know that this is available.
Well, one of these things that we're realizing